Okay, we're going to pick it back up now. We're in chapter 5, verse 10. He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. So what profit have the owners except to see them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. Really what he's doing here for us is talking to us about the dissatisfaction of the accumulation of wealth. Of all people, Solomon knew that the gathering of riches did not easily satisfy his soul. He understood that to be true. Really, if anything, this over-attention to the collection of money or the acquiring of money was something that just brought even greater dissatisfaction. Eventually, silver was not enough. You're going to want something more, no matter how much you accumulate of it. And this is so true. We've seen this. He also says that it's not just because the gathering of it is empty. You see, the reality is that the more you have, the more is required of you. Or the more, in his case, the more servants he had just meant that more they had to get food. They had to feed the servants, take care of the servants. The same thing is true with our possessions. If you have boats and jet skis and campers and a big house, and they're great and they're a lot of fun, and I've had those things. But they also take time to take care of them and maintain them, and not just using them, but actually just the ownership of them. And so too, with the wealthier that the abundance of things that you have can be quite a drain on you. Now, I like what he says, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. Really what he's saying is that there's something to be gained in the production of things in the accomplishment of things that we're producing. And so the poor man who's working in the field, he gets back when he's done and he sees that it grows, and there's something good about hard labor for us. I think this is important for us to understand as both men and women. I think that we need to have something that we can accomplish. Be careful when you're feeling yourself discouraged or depressed if you don't indeed have a job or something to keep you busy. If you're out of work right now, and while you're looking, I would encourage you to look for opportunities to volunteer at places so that you can keep your hands busy, so that you don't grow discouraged or even further depressed. Let's read on, verse 13. There is a severe evil which I have seen under the sun, riches kept for their owner to his hurt, but those riches perish through his misfortune. When he begets a son, there is nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came. And he shall take nothing from his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a severe evil. Just exactly as he came, so shall he go. And what profit has he who has labored for the wind? All his days he also eats in darkness. Sorry, I've lost my place. I thought I was standing on an anthill here. And he has much sorrow and sickness of anger. I think I'm okay. I thought I was standing on an anthill. Start seeing me dancing or something. So again, he's continuing on with this uncertainty of wealth. Riches that are kept to the owner, it comes to his own hurt. He's talking about that not every person who's wealthy is a blessing to their own life. Dean puts it this way: rather preserved by the possessor, hoarded and guarded, only to bring their Lord added grief, when by some reverse of fortune he loses them, as explained in what follows. And so what Dean is saying is he's echoing Solomon's words that sometimes this, maybe a storm comes through and destroys the business, or a fire comes and everything is ruined, or the economy crashes, or Congress passes something that affects your business directly that you didn't foresee. And now all your plans and all your savings, they're gone because you're just trying to survive. And so if you put your stock in that and you're used to living by those standards, then what can happen quite often is you become greatly discouraged, and the loss of the money can be, through some catastrophic thing, can be shown to be foolish to you because you have placed too much stock in it. And so Solomon just reminds those who are wealthy that, listen, you came into the world with nothing, and anything you have, you can't take it with you. There's no way that you can take this, take what you have beyond the grave. And so it's fine that you have it, but do not allow it to have you, I think, is essentially what he's saying. And he takes it further and says that, your everything in your life then is darkness and end of days and all that. But I think that's the results of placing your stock in it and then losing. And you don't have to be a rich man for this. You don't have to be a wealthy person for this. You can be a moderate person. You can be someone who's kind of average Joe, middle of the road, middle class, if you will, or maybe even lower than middle class financially. But you've put so much stock and comfort in where you are. You're very content with what you have, but you're also you put so much stock that if something happened and you lost it, or you lost your job, that you suddenly would be without any hope. And we can do this in a lot of ways. I've seen people do it with our kids. We put so much stock into our kids, so much value on our children, then when they grow up and they're gone, we're lost. People feel like they don't know what to do and what to focus on. And so it's important that we focus on the Lord, that we don't put too much wealth or riches into what's here, and we're careful that we keep a light grip on our hands on the things that God and the people that God has blessed us with. Look at Luke 12, verse 20. Luke 12, verse 20. I'll give you a second to find it. We know the story of the rich fool. He had fields that yielded plenty, and he began to make these plans. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. But Jesus says, God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will these things be which you have provided?" So Jesus echoes the words of Solomon here, that if you place your stock in these food, or in your stock, if you will, well then, if it's taken away, you're going to be the most miserable of people. Even your life can end, that quick. Verse 18. Back in chapter 5. "Here is what I have seen. It is a good and fitting for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor, in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him. For it is his heritage. As for every man to whom God has given riches and wealth, and given him power to eat of it, to receive his heritage and rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. For he will not dwell unduly the days of his life, because God keeps him busy with the joy of his heart." Essentially, you're going to make the best of a bad situation. It's good and fitting for one to eat and drink, because in this life, Solomon says, you get these things and don't begrudge the fact that you have them. It's not that he's saying that he was depressed or discouraged that he had wealth. In fact, he says it's good for a man who has riches and wealth, because even that is a gift from the Lord. See, though he has been touting the emptiness of those things, he's not talking about having them that's empty. He's talking about allowing those things to possess you. He's not talking about you possessing those things. He says it's a good thing, that God is the one who gave you the gift of wealth or of abundance. And so you have to have a proper perspective. I have to say, I would rather be wealthy than poor, but I would rather be poor if I had the wrong heart about wealth. But I would rather be wealthy so that I could help the poor, or help those in need, or bless others with it. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And so don't be mistaken to think that those who are wealthy are miserable, or that God did not give it to them. No, the Lord blesses those who have quite often. And so, you know what? We want to be thankful when you have things. And then, use it for the things of the Lord. So I think he's saying that ultimately the great meanings of life are not found in the things that we possess. And so don't look to your children, to your spouse, to your riches, your job, to those things as being the thing that brings you peace. Look only to the Lord, and then thank him for those things that you have in your life. And with that, I think let's go ahead and get into chapter 5, chapter 6, and we'll see how far we get in chapter 6.